Am I the idiot? For starting the fireplace my husband promised to build and getting blamed for it at a family gathering. My husband and I have been married for 8 years, together for 10. We have 3 young kids, a 6-year-old male, a 4-year-old female, and a 1-year-old female. He works in the trades, and I am returning to teaching in September after spending a few months recovering from the damage my previous job did to my mental health. I mention this because even though most of my days are good, I still have some moments where I ruminate on that trauma, and maybe what I'm feeling now has to do with that. I don't know. Over the past couple of days, I've been struggling to get through my day-to-day. I don't know if it's just been a couple of bad days, or if I just need some alone time to recharge a bit while taking care of the kids, or if I'm just going stir-crazy from looking at the same 4 walls. My husband is a great husband and father. He is very hands-on with the kids when he is home, and the shared chores are usually split pretty evenly. But he has a couple of flaws that are grating on me. The first is that he is so helpful to everyone. He would drop everything to help others, which is great, but it usually happens at my expense. I can't even count the number of times weekends have passed with me and the kids sitting on the sidelines while he plays the white knight for someone else. Because he is handy, both of our families and friends have projects that they want him to do, and he will do them. Meanwhile, we have enough projects of our own. We are missing trim in rooms, the basement is unfinished, a window needs replacing in our bedroom, and so on. This leads into the second flaw, his inability to finish anything for us. I'm stuck looking at a house with projects started but unfinished. My living room fireplace is a prime example of how these flaws hurt me. When we first bought the house 2 years ago, he promised me that the first thing he would do is build me a fireplace wall with built-in shelves. It's been sitting partially finished for at least a year. Meanwhile, I had to watch him finish a similar project for his sister in 3 weeks. I understand that she was paying him for it, but it still hurts seeing her beautiful living room while mine is in disarray. There are other examples, of course, like the whole fiasco with our ensuite half-bath. I had wanted it done before the birth of our 3rd child. He instead helped the neighbor drywall his living room, and my bathroom was completed 4 months later. It was so much fun sleeping in a construction zone with my newborn. Right now, he is off helping my dad with a project. I'm at home, looking at the unfinished fireplace and feeling unfulfilled. I have some rudimentary do-it-yourself skills, but with 3 children underfoot, it's not a project I can undertake right now. On top of that, I'm also busy trying to prepare for the school year, but it's hard finding uninterrupted time for that either. Right now, the kids are having a rare moment where they are not squabbling, but they still demand attention, which I barely have the bandwidth to give. And as kids are, I clean one room, and the next looks like a tornado, and someone always needs something. I just feel defeated and stuck. And I resent my husband for getting to leave the house and actually do something worthwhile while I'm stuck here with nothing to show for it. I resent my dad because he is getting his projects done while I stare at unfinished things around the house. I just want someone to take the kids so I can get things done and feel like I can accomplish something. But it seems that even though we live steps away from both sets of grandparents, they are too busy to even offer. And if I ask, I get the "we'd love to but" response. I desperately need a break, and I need my husband to care or show that he cares. But when I've talked to him about the projects, he claims he needs time or money, to which I have asked him to give me a quote on what he needs to finish these so we can budget, and he doesn't. Now it's become a running joke with our mutual friends and family. I'm just so frustrated because he is so good in every other aspect, but I just feel like I'm only a priority if everyone else is fine first, and they are never fine. Is it just me being in a funk? Am I reading too much into this? Or is there a way I can communicate this in another way? I feel like I don't matter. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. He's using the excuse of helping everyone else as his social or fun time, leaving you to deal with the unfun parts of family life. Also, are these other people paying him? If so, that money should be going to finish your work. Maybe tell your dad and other relatives that the handyman service is closed until further notice. Comment 2. He may appear really helpful to others, but to his partner, he starves. He has his priorities upside down. I think it is a personal issue. He needs some counseling and boundaries. Tell him to stop helping everyone else but his partner. It would almost be better to be his friend. You would get more care. Now for the update. 1 week later, and I'm still just as frustrated about my husband's unfinished projects and lack of attention to home life. Honestly, I don't even have the energy to go into the details again. It's been a rough few weeks, and I'm just going to try to get through this as best I can. Decided to tackle some small tasks around the house to feel a sense of accomplishment. Basically, I was just trying to do something that would make me feel better. So, I cleaned out a closet and found boxes of old toys and clothes that could be donated. While sorting through all that stuff, I discovered a half-finished scrapbook my husband started years ago, intended for our kids. It was sweet and all, but also just another reminder of how he's always got time to do stuff for everyone else, but never gets around to doing it for our family. Anyway, he agreed to help me with the kids for the day, promising to work on the fireplace project later. I thought maybe that would be the push he needed to actually get it done. But of course, he ended up getting a last-minute call from a friend who needed help with a home repair, leaving me alone again. So there I was, juggling the kids while cleaning and organizing the house, wishing for some actual teamwork and not just empty promises about helping out. At dinner, I brought up how the fireplace project is still unfinished. He brushed it off, saying he'll get to it when he has time, making it sound like a joke. Like, seriously? Your wife's been waiting 1.5 years, and that's your response? The kids were excited about the scrapbook, and he seemed annoyed that I wasn't engaging with him. He tried to change the subject, but I kept working on the scrapbook while the kids cheered me on. It was just one of those moments where I felt like I was doing something meaningful for our family, while he was just being a distraction. During dinner, he casually mentions that his sister is having a birthday party next weekend and expects him to help with the decorations. Of course, she does. The next day, I decided to take the kids to the birthday party to show my support. At the party, I noticed my husband was busy organizing the decorations and chatting with family. One of his relatives jokingly asked why he hasn't finished the fireplace yet, drawing attention to the issue. He just laughed it off, which honestly made me feel even more frustrated. Like, he thinks it's funny that he's neglected this project for over 1 year. After the party, I confronted him in the car, asking why he seems to care more about his sister than our family. He claimed I was overreacting and that he'll get to our projects when he can. This led to a heated argument where he accused me of not being supportive of his family. Back at home, I decided to take matters into my own hands. I knew I couldn't wait on him anymore. So I made a plan to finish the fireplace myself and gathered supplies from a local store. I spent the next few days working on the fireplace late at night after the kids were asleep. He noticed the supplies piled up, but didn't ask what I was doing. On the weekend, I revealed the nearly completed fireplace to him, showing him what I accomplished. He was taken aback, and I told him I couldn't wait for him anymore. That was when our argument resurfaced. He accused me of undermining him, and I countered by saying I was done waiting for his help. It was time for both of us to take responsibility. The argument escalated, and he stormed out, saying he was going to help his sister with her home project. I finished the fireplace that night. The next day, I decided to invite my in-laws over to see the finished fireplace, making it a point to showcase my work. During the visit, my husband seemed embarrassed and tried to downplay my effort. The in-laws praised me, and it made him uncomfortable. The evening ended with him sulking. The unresolved tension lingers as I prepare for our next family gathering. Mini update. The family gathering was a disaster. My husband was in a terrible mood all evening, and our argument from the previous week kept coming up. He told his family that I did the fireplace project behind his back, and they sided with him, asking why I couldn't wait for him. I felt ganged up on, but I stood my ground, saying I was tired of waiting on him for everything. After the gathering, I told him I was done fighting about this. Now for the next story. My girlfriend, who is 39 years old, and I, who am 35 years old, have been together for slightly more than a decade. In the spring of last year, after getting insanely mad at me for something kind of stupid, she disappeared for 6 hours with no contact, leaving me without my phone. Mine had literally just broken, and no car, which was in the shop, and our 2-month-old and 3-year-old children with me. She was originally going to take the kids with her, but wasn't telling me where she was going. So after I had a fit about taking my kids without telling me where she was going or when she was coming back, she left them with me. When she came home at 11:30 p.m., she slept in a different room. The next morning she got up, showered, then left again for another 6 hours. When she returned again, we had a fight about it, and she told me she did it as punishment, as well as saying that I don't deserve her. A month later, after asking me in a lighthearted seeming conversation who I would use a free pass on if given one, she actually offered me a free pass for 8 months. Weirded out by this, I asked her why, and she told me that it seems like I want more intimacy than what she is offering, which isn't untrue because we have intimacy once or twice a month at most, and for most of the relationship, it has been less. And I've complained about this, so she does know. At first, I thought she was messing around with me, but then after asking, she confirmed that she was seriously offering it. The only rules laid out were that it had to be in that 8-month period, not to get the girl pregnant, not to get sexually transmitted diseases, and she doesn't want to know about it. I wanted to ask for more specifics, but didn't want to come off as too interested, so I left it at that. Over the next 8 months, I never really used it because it was rather unrealistic for me to find someone for this when I'm constantly working and dealing with kids, and she always wants to keep tabs on where I'm at. Plus, I didn't really want intimacy with other people. I just wanted it with her more often, even if the thought was admittedly more than a little exciting. I did talk to a few girls briefly, text only, online, when my libido was running high, but my guilty conscience always got the better of me. It still felt like cheating, and I felt like most girls saw through the pass as a guy trying to cheat and downplaying it, so I felt slimy. Plus, how do I do any of this without her knowing, as one of her rules was that she didn't want to know. It was stressful and felt disloyal. In the 7th month, I did meet with a stranger who was in my area for the night for casual intimacy, but what was meant to be a one-night stand instead turned into me having a nervous breakdown and unintentionally making the poor girl my one-night therapist. Fast forward to now, having been bothered by all of this on nearly a daily basis, I just can't shake some of what was said and done out of my mind, and it creeps up out of the blue. I find myself constantly feeling anxious and stressed out sometimes about nothing in particular. Recently, we've seen a couples therapist using her 5 employee assistance programs through her work. But while it did help to strengthen our relationship a little, we didn't address the major issues, mostly because I was afraid to bring them up. I brought up the few fights we had around the start of the therapy, as we were both struggling to communicate effectively, and were both making some pretty basic mistakes that our therapist helped us better navigate. She was already accusing me of telling on her by the 3rd session, so I never brought up anything big. I didn't bring up any of the above points, nor any of the ways she can get borderline emotionally and verbally hurtful if our arguments escalate. The thing is, I'm hurting here. I'm developing trust issues I didn't think I'd ever have. She's begun delivering food aside from her regular job, which puts her out and coming home at irregular, unspecified times. I truly believe she is honestly just delivering food, nothing nefarious, but anxiety is kicking in hard despite that. I also believe she didn't cheat when she left for those 12 split hours, but I can't quite convince myself 100%. She claims to have gone to a discount store in a town 40 minutes away from us, but it doesn't feel like that accounts for 2 back-to-back 6-hour outings. That slight doubt, coupled with the realization that she is willing to punish me as she sees fit, and has told me I don't deserve her, sometimes is enough to put me in a nearly crippling state of emotional dysregulation if I let my mind linger on it. Then just a few days ago, she had me download a driving app which tracks your trips. when I praised her on how her driving was better than mine, and how I was surprised she didn't have more speeding tickets since she claims to always drive 9 over, she asked me, "You're looking at my trips?" with a surprised expression. It automatically showed both our vehicles until I figured out how to have it sort for just mine, which I told her. Since then, her trips are suddenly not recording, and she doesn't seem at all concerned or interested in trying to fix it. I'm trying hard not to feel suspicious. So this is where you all come in, hopefully. I have 3 employee assistance programs through my work that I can use for either solo or joint therapy. I don't know if I should stick with the therapist we've been seeing and bring these things up. I feel guilty doing so, because it felt like we've created this sort of bond with the therapist, and I'm going to be airing out dirty laundry all of a sudden. Not my intent at all, but I need help before I lose all sense of who I am. Since I only have 3 free employee assistance programs and don't want to pay for more sessions, it saves a lot of trouble and time dealing with a therapist we like that already has some of our history as clients. Or should I find a completely new therapist to go solo with, so as not to damage my significant other's reputation with her? I'm afraid I'm going to waste an entire session just on introductions, explaining things we already told the First Lady, and possibly not like them. Do I try to talk about these things, and not for the first time for most of the issues, with my significant other first, before bringing things up in therapy? I'm afraid of her turning straight to, "I think we should break up," like she has on some of my previous attempts to have a heart-to-heart about our more serious problems. Just unsure what the most appropriate approach is for this. Especially since my significant other already called me out on bringing up things about her to the therapist and mentioning things that were her place to bring up, not mine. I never realized there was this delicate dance around what should and should not be spoken to a therapist, and by whom. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Just my 2 cents here, but it is very likely she had an 8-month affair and offered you the 8-month hall pass as a means to level the playing field. She felt guilty and thought that would make her feel better. It also explains why you weren't getting much intimacy. She was getting most of her intimacy needs met by her affair partner and was only having pity intimacy with you every couple of weeks. Everything adds up. When women are involved in affairs, a lot of the time they'll be inconsiderate and downright mean to their significant other. They do this so that you'll not want intimacy with them as often, because, ironically, they don't want to cheat on their affair partner with their significant other. It's the way of the world, brother. It is what it is. Comment 2. Well, I think you need to seriously consider the possibility that she cheated on you or otherwise put herself in a position that you wouldn't be happy about. No one gives a hall pass out like that unless they are harboring some extreme guilt about something. It's hard to tell how your relationship actually is from one post, but I would be trying to get a hold of her phone when she's sleeping, because it's pretty obvious to me she did something she is not proud of. And no one offers a hall pass like that without doing something that would make them feel unworthy. I doubt she'll be honest with you. You're going to have to find out information on your own. Now for the update. My last post was honestly a bit of a mess. I didn't even know what I was going to do. Well, I got a bit of a wake-up call. A day after my last post, I felt like I needed to deal with things. I couldn't just keep on sitting here, hoping that everything would get better. I decided to check the driving app again. I was hoping that maybe all my suspicions were just a product of my own anxiety. I mean, I wanted to be wrong about all of this, but of course, I wasn't. I found a trip that didn't make any sense. My girlfriend had driven to a different city late at night. Yeah, that same city where we used to live. I was just sitting there watching TV with her that night. I just casually asked her about it, you know? I was trying not to sound too suspicious or anything. She just brushed it off, claiming she was delivering food in a new area. That sounded pretty weird to me, but I didn't want to push it too hard. I just couldn't shake the feeling that something was off, like something was really wrong. So I paid even closer attention to her patterns. I mean, I didn't want to come off as a complete psycho who was watching her every move, but I had to know what was going on. Then we had a family dinner at my parents' house. I noticed how distracted she seemed, and my brother Jake even made a comment about it. He said something like, "Why is she always on her phone?" That kind of ticked us off at first, and we ended up arguing a bit. But after dinner, I heard her whispering on the phone in the kitchen. She sounded anxious and defensive, and you know what? That just made me feel even more suspicious. The next day, I decided to use a tracking feature on our shared phone plan to see where she went during her trips. I found out she'd been spending time at a hotel not too far from our house. When I confronted her about it, she just changed the subject and acted all evasive. At that point, I was pretty frustrated, so I decided to go to the hotel. I pretended like I was picking up food for her. As I pulled up, I recognized a familiar car in the parking lot. Guess whose car? My younger sister's. That old knot in my stomach came back, and I asked the receptionist if my sister was staying there. She confirmed that my sister had checked in a few hours earlier, and guess what? My girlfriend checked in with her. I couldn't just confront them right then and there, so I decided to wait outside the hotel. I kept my distance, but I wanted to see what happened next. A little while later, I watched as my girlfriend and sister came out together, laughing and holding hands. They walked to the car, and I'll tell you what, I felt this surge of anger. It was like I was about to explode. I knew they were hiding something big. Instead of confronting them, I snapped a few pictures to have proof of what I was seeing. The next day, I called a family meeting. Yeah, I invited my parents and siblings over because I had to talk about this. I shared the photos I took, and let me tell you, the room fell silent. My parents looked shocked, while my brother and sister tried to defend themselves. I confronted my sister about her betrayal. I demanded to know how long this had been going on. She admitted it had started months ago, claiming she fell in love with my girlfriend. This news just caused a lot of drama in our family. It led to arguments and accusations flying everywhere. I decided to take a step back from the chaos. Everyone needed some time to process what had happened. A week later, I got a text from my girlfriend. She asked to meet up and discuss everything. I agreed to meet her at a local diner where we had shared many memories. When she arrived, I laid it all out for her. I went through her lies, the photos, and my sister's betrayal. Instead of apologizing, she tried to justify her actions, and that led to a heated argument. I stood up and announced that I was done with the relationship. The next day, I filed for separation. I made sure my girlfriend understood the consequences of her actions. Now I'm just focusing on co-parenting. I'm determined to keep the peace for the sake of our kids. I can't believe how far I've come since this all started. I really thought I couldn't live without her, but honestly, life feels so much better without all that drama. I never thought my sister would betray me like that, but I'm glad I found out. Now I know I deserve someone who's all in and not hiding stuff from me. Thanks for all the support and advice you guys gave me along the way. It's helped me more than you'll ever know. Take care, everyone. Edit. I didn't tell my parents about the rough patch my girlfriend and I were experiencing. I didn't want to worry them or make things worse. My brother Jake was aware of our troubles, but I hadn't told him about my suspicions. My sister and my ex broke up soon after my confrontation.